Some would say that this position has become a lost art over the last 20 years with how the game of basketball has evolved, but the players are still great at the position, and I want to give them some flowers. So today, we're going to be going through the top 10 power forwards, continuing this series. So if you enjoy, drop a like and drop a comment. What would you change? Getting into the honorable mentions here, and we don't have anybody that necessarily dropped out of the list, and that is because of some moves that some of these teams made this offseason. For example, Chet Holmgren last year was classified as a center. I think Oklahoma's going to experiment with him at the 4 this year with the addition of Isaiah Hartenstein. But other guys, Kyle Kuzma is a great scorer. Of course, Evan Mobley, great defender. We want to see a little bit more offensively from him consistently going forward. But Trey Murphy, Keegan Murray, two great 3-and-D guys. They really embody that archetype, and they're just knockdown shooters. I mean, Trey Murphy was the best player for the Pelicans in the postseason last year against the Thunder, and really in the play-in as well, outside of Zion. And Keegan Murray, he has the best crowd chant in the league, but he's just been a tremendous spacer for a team that desperately needs it there in Sacramento. But those are some honorable mentions. Nobody that necessarily dropped out of the list. But getting into the top 10, Jaren Jackson Jr., and you're saying, Owen, this guy's always been a center. Why is he now a 4? Well, the rumors have been that Zach Edey, he showed out in Summer League. He might actually start from day one. And of course, Steven Adams is no longer in Memphis anymore. So Jaren Jackson, when Steven Adams was there, was the 4. And of course, once Steven Adams got hurt last year, Jaren made the transition to the 5. Long story short, I think he returns to the 4 this year with the addition of Zach Edey. So Memphis is a team I believe has high hopes next year. I think they can make a lot of noise next year and make a push, hear me out, for the NBA championship. They have everything, right? I mean, 2-3 years ago, this was a team that was fighting for the 1 seed every single year, it felt like. And Ja just kept getting better and better and better. Same can be said with, of course, the supporting cast, but mainly Desmond Bane. Of course, Jaren Jackson Jr. This last year, you can look at it as a blessing in disguise as his offensive bag has gotten only better, and he's only going to get more confidence with the, of course, the added offensive role he had on the subpar team this year, let's say. But Jaren's coming back into this year. He's this low because of the team success over the last year, and the defense is still there. I mean, this is a guy that 2 years ago was the defensive player of the year. He's so impactful on that side of the ball. I don't know if he's ever going to win another one because of Victor Wembanyama, but at least for now, this is a guy that is back to his normal position, and he moves down here to number 10. But expect him to make a case for the top 5 or 6 just next season. Of course, we'll take a look here at the stats. 22.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists. When we look at stocks, of course, that is steals and blocks combined. He's giving you about 3 a game, and of course, 44% from the field, 32 from 3. You want to see the rebounding get better, and you want to see the efficiency get better, of course, there, especially as a big man, but you have to take into account his play style. At number 9, we have Karl Anthony Towns. He's been playing the 4 for a couple years now, and sure, there's some lineups where he'll play the 5 next to Naz Reid, or if, both Naz Reid and Rudy Gobert are in foul trouble, like we saw at times in the postseason, he'll slide to his natural position at the 5. But this is the greatest shooting big man in the history of the NBA, and I can say that with I could say that with, I get confidence, right, is the word I'm looking for here, because he's giving you 22 points a game, 8.5 rebounds, 3.5 or 3 to 3.5 assists a game, but he's shooting 42%. And you're saying, okay, that's pretty good from the 3, but he's doing it on like 6 attempts a game as a 7-foot big man. Karl Anthony Towns is generational, right? He has evolved this position as much as people probably don't want to look at him and say he's going to be someone we look back on and say he kind of transformed this position of modern day 4s going forward, because people in that conversation are like Steph Curry, LeBron James, Michael Jordan back when he played. Those are guys that changed the game Karl Anthony Towns is in the conversation with Dirk Nowitzki as they changed how the fours play the game. They are elite floor stretchers at the four position. And, a lot of people are going to model their game after players like that going forward in this modern day five out kind of a game. But Karl Anthony Towns last year was huge for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I would say it was his best year in the trio of Ant, Cat, and Rudy. He stepped up a lot last season when he was asked to do so, whether Ant didn't have it going or they just needed that extra offensive punch. Karl Anthony Towns seemed to answer the call multiple times last season, and that's why he's at number 9. At number 8, we have the first-time All-Star Scotty Barnes for the Toronto Raptors, a guy that was giving you about 20 and 8 a night on good efficiency. And this is the best part. The defense was elite, giving you about 3 stocks a game. Scotty did everything for a subpar Toronto Raptors team last season, a team that lost Pascal Siakam in the offseason. And they said, we need a punch, or excuse me, at the midseason mark. They said, we need a punch. We need somebody to step up and really claim this franchise. Well, they knew it was going to be Scotty Barnes, but you still wanted to see it happen. And if you're a Raptors fan, I think you're pretty confident now that Scotty Barnes is going to be your go-to guy going forward. He is the building block that you need to surround to build a championship contender. Now, whether that happens or not, well, we have to wait and see. They have one of the best GMs in the game, but Scotty Barnes, tremendous for, of course, he's still, excuse me, I have something blocking it. He's only 23 years old, right? So he's not even close to even entering his prime, and he's already at number 8 on this list. He has a bright future, and I'm excited to see what Scotty Barnes can do. But as of right now, he's at number 8. Of course, next year, maybe the Raptors can make a play-in push. All depends on how they start the season, I believe. At number 7, though, is Julius Randle, a guy that it was a tale of two seasons, and for obvious reasons, but also a reason out of his control. Let me explain. At 29 years old, of course, going into last year, the Knicks had this 1A, 1B kind of a situation where some nights it's Jalen Brunson, some nights it's Julius Randle, and there was no clear leader or go-to guy on this team. Now, of course, once Julius Randle went down with an injury, the second half of the season, the Knicks looked like a completely different team, a lot more dominant of a team as Jalen Brunson took over. He entered that superstardom category, and this team formed around Jalen Brunson. There's a reason why he's already been named the team captain of the New York Knicks going into next year, something the Knicks haven't done in a long time, in over a couple decades. They went out of their way to make this early announcement of Jalen Brunson's our team captain going into next season because he's that good. Jalen Brunson was a superstar level player for the last 2 years in the postseason, but especially the second half of last regular season and postseason as well. Jalen Brunson showed out. He's their guy. Now, Julius Randle, that's why it's a tale of two seasons. He was great in the first half. Statistically gave you 24-9, 5, of course, good efficiency for his volume on a night-to-night basis. But the second half of the season, the team looked better without him. Now, I will say this. Julius Randle's coming back. He's going to be a starter for this team. He's going to continue to play bully ball. I just wonder how much of I guess, shot attempts and volume he's going to get. How much of a decrease is he going to have from years prior? Because this team worked better when it was just kind of give Brunson the ball and get out the way, and he's going to make something happen. Are we going to trust that? Are we going to trust Julius Randle in that same perspective? Are we going to give him the ball on the block and have everybody else sit around him and let him go to work? I'm sure at some points in the game you're going to do that if he's hot, but are we going to open up the game? Is that going to be part of our scheme to have 2 ball-stopping kind of players in our starting 5 for a team with championship aspirations? I wonder if the Knicks are going to take that route. But with all that being said, he's a very talented scorer. He is a very talented bully, as I like to say about Julius Randle. Defensively, I think this year we're going to see a different side of Julius Randle now that they have other pieces like Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, who barely got to play with Julius Randle, or at least not for more than 2 months. I think with all these extra defensive pieces, Julius Randle, especially now with Jalen Brunson as well, taking that step up offensively, we might see a different side of him on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm excited to see. At age 29, we might get the best defensive version of Julius Randle in his career. But as of right now, he's at number 7. At number 6, Pascal Siakam. A mid-season transaction for the Pacers, and on paper, you said it could work, but how well is it going to work? Because Pascal is a guy that, sure, he'll get out and run, right? He can get out and sometimes he could be that go-to scorer for the Pacers. But we just worried about how much he would slow down the game for the Pacers at the midseason mark when this transaction was made. And well, he didn't really do much, right? This is a guy that turned out, at 30 years old, was a great pickup here for the Pacers at the midseason mark, if I can talk correctly. He came into this team and he was giving them about 22 and 7 a night. Of course, solid numbers across the board, but we especially saw it in that postseason, right? To start off the postseason, the first 2 rounds, there was a good part of those series where Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner, they were very wishy-washy. One game, Tyrese Halliburton was good. The rest of the series, kind of okay. Same can be said about Miles Turner. But the one consistent heartbeat and the one consistent go-to guy that was consistently producing was Pascal Siakam. He had multiple 25, 30-point performances that really helped this team get some of those upset wins. At least that's what we thought at the time. Getting those big wins against the Bucks, which they were not favored in. Getting big wins in the next series against the New York Knicks, which they weren't favored in. And it's all because Pascal was consistently dominant for them in that postseason run. But Pascal Siakam, still a great two-way power forward, I will say, and still an all-star perennial player. I guess he plays at that level is what I'm getting at here. But Pascal Siakam at number 6, he is still a great player here, still probably top 30 player in the NBA. But that just goes to show how talented this position is. It's just like the point guards, where in a couple weeks when I do my top 50, you're going to see a lot of power forwards, and point guards on that list because of how deep those positions are. But at number 5, I think he's already above Pascal. I think he's already above Scotty Barnes and everybody else below him. We're talking about P5. We're talking about Paolo Banchero at just 21 years old. I'm 21 years old. But the only difference between me and him is he's good at basketball. He's about 10 inches taller than me, right? About 6'10". And of course, everything else. But Paolo Banchero, 22 and a half points a game, 7 rebounds, 5.5 assists. His numbers are good, right? He's the go-to guy on a young team that made a lot of noise this past season in Orlando. But the reason why I have him as high as I do is because of that second half of the season, and especially in that postseason first round against the Cavaliers. I'm a Cavs fan. I'm happy we won the series, but we should have won that series in 4 or 5 games. Let's be honest. But we didn't because Paolo Banchero is such a special player. But it's really that second half of the season and that first round series where I saw a different version of Paolo, a lot more comfortable Paolo, a guy that's will get in his bag a little bit more often. Now, it wasn't as consistent from the three-point line that we would like to see from a guy on his trajectory. We would like to see him be able to step out and knock down more than 1 to 2 threes a game consistently to really make him an unstoppable force. And ultimately, that would open up his post game. And of course, when he likes to attack the basket, it would make it easier on himself if he had that reliable jumper. But Paolo Banchero at 21, it was just so dominant that second half of the year, especially we saw in game 5, 6, and 7 where he was knocking down 3 threes a game. And it was unstoppable for the Cavs. We didn't know what to do. We really had to put Evan Mobley on him, and we had to have Jared Allen sitting in the paint just so we had a chance to protect the rim and also protect him on the perimeter. But he's just a special player, and his trajectory is really top 5 level in the next 5 or so years. Zion Williamson at number 4, and this is the first year of his career where he's been healthy, and we can really rank him on a list like this because the last couple of years he's been playing 20 games, 30 games, 40 games. We finally got a full sample size of Zion Williamson, and of course, take that saying with a grain of salt, but we finally got to see a full season from Zion, and boy was he dominant. He proved he was the guy for the New Orleans Pelicans, right? He finally broke out at 24 years old on a consistent level, and he was just dominant. I mean, 23, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, solid defensively. Sure, he was still the most blocked player in the league. Zion's just, that's his game. He's a bully. He's a center and a 6'6" body, right? And this is a guy that's he's going to get to the rim. He's going to, move your favorite center despite the significant height and weight advantage or disadvantage. And he's going to, put the ball in the basket. That's just his game, right? But Zion, he's going to always be the most blocked player in the league. That's just something that is always going to happen in his height. But outside of that, he improved his jumper this year. I'll say that. Was it as consistent as we would like? Same can be said about Paolo. We see moments with Zion. Paolo's definitely a little bit more willing to shoot the outside shot, but Zion is just so dominant inside. You can kind of bypass the inconsistencies with his jumper. But that's just another step in his development. He hasn't even entered his prime yet. Statistically, that is in about 2 years. But Zion, as of right now, one of the most dominant forces we've ever seen, even in the NBA today, but all time. He's one of the most dominant forces. And if you watch that play-in game against the Lakers, you saw everything. Anthony Davis is such a talented defensive player, one of the best defensive players of all time. If you want to agree with that or not, there's a reason AD was a top 75 guy of all time. But Zion will put up 40 on him. He put up 40 on LeBron and AD, and he single-handedly was going to give the Pelicans that win until he went out with an injury. And that really kind of put a nail in the coffin for the Pelicans season after he went out, because Brandon Ingram couldn't step up when it mattered most. It was Trey Murphy. But he's at number 4. At number 3, we have the first-time power forward, probably first time since his rookie season, in Bam Adebayo. And I have him as a 4 because it's been said multiple times. That's the direction the Miami Heat are going in 2024. They brought in, of course, Kel'el Ware, of course, the talented center. He's going to be a rookie this year, but they trust him. They liked what he did in Summer League for the most part, outside of foul trouble. And they are going to have him run the 5. He's also going to be able to provide the team with spacing. But Bam Adebayo has also been working on his jumper. We saw on Team USA, he wasn't necessarily the 5-man ever. He was always the 4 next to AD, next to Joel Embiid, next to whoever at the 5. Bam was always playing the 4. So we got a little sample size of how that's going to look here for the Miami Heat. But this is a team that has already said they want to run Jimmy at the 3 and Bam at the 4 at their natural positions going into next season. So that's why he is at number 3. But again, about 20 and 10 a game, elite defense. He's always going to be a defensive player of the year candidate. Whether if he's going to win one or not, I don't know. Maybe this year could be the year. But again, this is a guy that is just so dominant. He's efficient, and he does everything you need him to do on the defensive side of the ball. He's one of those centers that's so quick and agile on his feet. He can legitimately guard 1 through 4, or we'll say 2 through 5, right? We'll say 2 through 5. I wouldn't necessarily want him on an island with Luka or Trae Young, let's say, with some of those talented shot creators. But he's so talented that I think from time to time, he can get a stop on some of those elite guards on the outside. But at 27, he's in his prime. He's only going to get better, and I'm excited to see what he can do at the 4 spot. At number 2, it might be a shock, it might not, but I've never been a Jason Tatum fan, and that's not saying that I hate him. He's one of those players to me where he's kind of in the middle. He's okay. I've never liked him. I've never hated him. But Jason Tatum is a guy. Excuse me here. I'll adjust my camera. Jason Tatum is a guy that has just been okay to me, but he's still a superstar level player. And because of Steve Kerr's decisions at the Team USA, and of course in the span of Paris Olympics, there was games where he didn't play and the team dominated without him. So people are now acting like Jason Tatum is not a top 10 level player in the NBA. I don't know the words I'm looking for, but let's just say it's an illiterate statement to go out there and say that Jason Tatum is still not an elite player in today's game. This is the guy that was the leader on one of the most dominant regular season and postseason teams we've ever seen. not just in the last decade, not just in the last 20 of NBA history of all time. This is one of the most dominant teams that we've ever seen. And the best player on that team was Jason Tatum. Sure, did he not win the Eastern Conference Finals MVP? No, he didn't. That was Jaylen Brown. Did he win Finals MVP? Sure, right? No, he didn't. That was Jaylen Brown. Now, I don't want to say that Jaylen Brown is not a tremendous player. Jaylen Brown is a great player, but the leader of this team, the guy that would take back seats and do the little things outside of going out there and just dropping 25 to 30 a night, was Jason Tatum. He knew that this team was good enough on the offensive side of the ball. Let me take a step back, do the little things, and take over when I need to. I think people are overlooking that fact. And because he didn't have those, I guess, legacy defining games in the finals, and he had some, DNPs in the Olympics, people are starting to downgrade him as a player. I think that's idiotic. I think that's an illiterate decision, an illiterate statement. Jason Tatum is still a special player. He's still a top 10 level player in the game today. He's still giving you 27, 8, and 4.5 a night. And for everybody that wants to continue to discredit this man, he has the most playoff wins by any player in NBA history at this point in their careers. He was the only All NBA first member, All NBA first team guy last year that was American, right? Everybody else was foreign. And this is a guy that is always going to be in those conversations, giving you elite numbers, giving you elite productions. Doesn't mean he takes a step back for his team and to do the little things. That doesn't mean he's a bad basketball player. It doesn't mean he's still not an elite superstar level player. I never thought I'd be up here defending Jason Tatum, but here I am, right? 18,000 subscribers and probably 20 or so minutes into the podcast. That's just what happens. Giannis Antetokounmpo, though, there's no shocker here. Hopefully, right, even from you Boston Celtics fans, even after I defended your boy, please, let's not have any confusion here. Giannis is still arguably the best player in the game today. And yes, I say that with conviction. He is still in the top three. There's not many guys that are giving you 30.5 points, 11.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 2.5 stocks, and one of the best field goal percentages on a nightly basis. And that includes shooting 20 plus times a game, I might add. There's nothing like the Greek Freak. And if we saw anything from the FIBA play, he's still improving his game. At 29, this is a guy that, sure, he got a late jump into superstardom, but Giannis has a much more visually appeasing jumper, right? He improved his jumper. It looks a lot better, a lot cleaner, a lot less clunkier, and hopefully that can transition to the NBA. I'm not asking this dude to shoot 40%, but if he can shoot 33% on one or two more attempts a game, it's only going to make Giannis scarier as a basketball player. And for a team that had so much dysfunction around them last year, people forget they were still a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference despite a head coaching change after starting 30-13, despite losing Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton with injuries, and Jrue Holiday via trade to get Damian Lillard. The defense dropped off a mountain last year. And if Giannis wasn't there, I don't think the Bucks, they might be a play-in team. We'll say that in the Eastern Conference with just Damian Lillard. But Giannis brought them all the way to a 3 seed. Despite all the dysfunction and poor roster management, Giannis got them to that point. And if he didn't go down with an injury, I think they at least beat the Pacers, a team that went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Giannis is that good of a player where I think they might have a chance against the Knicks as well to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. But, of course, I don't think they stand a chance against the New York Knicks last season. But here's a quick recap. We have some more things to go through. But top 5 on the left side of your screen. Giannis, Tatum, Bam, Zion, Paolo. 6 through 10 on the right side. Pascal, Julius, Scotty Barnes, Cat, and Triple J to round out the top 10 power forwards in the game today. But let's go through some quick statistic leaders, and this is something I wish I did for the other positions, but for the 4, for the 5, and maybe for the top 50 players, we'll do this as well. But top 3 in points per game here, top 3 in rebounds per game here on your screen. Of course, Julius Randle was kind of surprising to make that list, but smaller sample size. Assist per game, Paolo makes it in there at 21 years old. He's probably going to be leading this statistic just after next season. Stocks leader, Scotty Barnes and Triple J, both giving you about 3 a game. Wait till you see Wemby's numbers. I already have next week prepped and ready to go. Wemby's numbers are absolutely insane. But as far as the fours, the usual suspects: Scotty Barnes, Triple J, Giannis. Giannis, of course, leading us in field goal percentage with Zion and Bam. Here's your 3-point percentage. That is going to do it. Now, what I've been doing for every single position, and I want to continue doing this for the four, I want to predict the next big thing. No, it's not Brock Lesnar. No, it's not Braun Breaker. For you wrestling fans out there, I want to predict the next big. Basically, I want to predict the next player that's going to jump into this list. As far as if we had the same exact players going into next year, as far as who could make the list, I think this player is most likely to jump into the list. Now, Chet Holmgren has an amazing argument to be on this list. But as a Cavs fan, I don't show bias often. And you guys will say that, and we have some fans that'll back me up in the comments. I'm going to say it's Evan Mobley. I want to see in a do or die year for Cleveland. I want to see this dude finally take that step up. He was the number 3 overall pick. We looked at this dude and said, he shows us flashes of Tim Duncan. We haven't seen that yet. Tim Duncan at this point was an elite offensive player in year 3, year 4 of his career, as well as giving you an amazing all-NBA defense. Now, that's lofty expectations. I don't expect Evan Mobley to actually be Tim Duncan, but I want to see him be more assertive offensively, because the version of Darius Garland that we got last year, I am perfectly okay. And even 2 years ago, I am perfectly okay with Evan Mobley stepping up and being our secondary go-to guy offensively, especially because Garland is still a great playmaker to get Evan Mobley in those spots. If we can use him like an Anthony Davis, get him the ball in the low post, let him go to work, sometimes in the mid post on the top of the key, I just want to see us use him in a different variety of ways to unlock this offensive potential, because we saw flashes in that Boston series in the second round where he was taking over some of those games, right? Especially the games that Donovan Mitchell was out. Mobley was going to work, and he was giving us 20, 25 points to kind of close out our season. So I'm going to predict Evan Mobley, with his Defensive Player of the Year ability as well, that he's going to jump in to the top 10 list next season. The last thing I want to close out the show with, and I know this at this point is probably about a week old, but I want to give my opinions on this. Last time I talked to you guys, the single elimination games haven't started yet. They hadn't started yet, excuse me. But Team USA, or the Avengers, if you want to call this rendition of the gold medal team, they got the job done. And, to beat teams like Serbia after being down 17 points, not 70, hopefully not, right? Being down 17 points in the last quarter and a half, that was an amazing comeback to watch. That was just something that in the moment, it's, you had the confidence the team could do it, but to watch them do it, to mount that comeback, was something I'll never forget. But then to go on to this gold medal game against France, Wemby was showing his ass. He was showing that he's going to be the next top. He's going to be the face of the league. It's going to be him or Anthony Edwards, it seems like, going forward. But this is the guy that was going crazy. Yabusele. Oh my goodness, LeBron fans. I'm a LeBron GOAT. I said on that side of the argument where LeBron is my GOAT, like Captain America. But Yabusele sent that man into, I don't even know. That was a crazy poster dunk. If you haven't seen it, Jordan fans, go watch it. You can use that as potential ammo. But this team just defensively and offensively was just so fun to watch. I would really say the real reason we won was because of our defense, and we should. We have some of the best players in the world, but offensively it was clunky at times. But really, that gold medal game, shout out to Steph Curry. To see this man look at LeBron James and Kevin Durant late in the game. This is a team that needs a dagger shot to win it all against France. For Steph Curry to look those two greats in the eyes and say, nah, I'd rather take a fadeaway off of 1'3" from 35 feet out against 2 French defenders, and to say that that's the better option over passing it up, absolutely insane. Because he would go on to make this shot and, of course, seal the deal for Team USA. the greatest shooter of all time, does it yet again. And honestly, I got to watch a little bit of the Redeem team, live, right? That was a good team, really good team, especially when you look back on things. The 2012 team, arguably one of the most talented of all time. But this team here, I mean, the 2016 Rio Olympics was okay. We got the job done. But this team here was such a special team to watch. And to just kind of fathom the idea that we are never going to be able to see Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and LeBron James on the same team again is crazy to think about. But it was special to watch. That's why you got to take things in the moment. And something that we'll probably never see. Anthony Davis might never play in the Olympics again. Of course, Devin Booker's already done this a couple times. Is he going to be the lead guy in 4 years down the line? Something to watch out for, right? But as of right now, I think in 2028, our team might look like Paolo Banchero, Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards. Those might be our lead guys going into the next Olympics. But is Bam going to play? He's going to be pushing 30, right? Or he's going to be like 31, 32 years old. Is Bam still going to want to suit up for Team USA after doing this thing a couple times? Some players just get that fatigue of Olympic play. So something to look out for, right? I'm also curious to see what the FIBA team looks like in 2 years' time because Ant doesn't want to do it. Devin Booker hasn't been doing it. So maybe that's where we get Paolo's emergence in the Olympic play in the FIBA Cup in just 2 years. Episode 199. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's show. Now on Thursday, we'll be back here, and that's going to be fun. We're going to be talking about basically what's been going on in the NFL. Brandon Ayuk, the CeeDee and Dallas saga. We're going to be talking about, of course, some preseason standouts and some of my takeaways from the initial week of NFL preseason. So that should be fun. That'll be episode 200. And just like every other video on the channel, that will come out around 12 or noon or 1 p.m. Eastern. But that's going to do it. If you guys enjoyed, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 20K, and we can't get there without you. So please support us if you can. But all glory to God. See you guys Thursday.